Good evening. Welcome to Community and Technology, where we connect the global community with news, information, and resources that we hope will help improve your life. I'm Stu Reid. Here's my co-host, Dave Burstein. Hey, Dave.
Hello.
How you doing?
Well, I spent a lot of the last 2 weeks trying to figure out the nonsense in OpenAI and so on. And I suspect anybody who's been reading the newspapers or the press the last few days doesn't want to hear any more about it. But if
Probably
you
not,
haven't,
but we should at least mention
I'll update it.
we should at least mention that Altman is back in at the helm of OpenAI, the guy, CEO, founder that was fired about a week and a half ago,
Yeah.
reinstated.
Good reasons to fire him, incidentally. It was just done very badly.
Why? Okay, well, I'm interested in that, Dave. What do you think were the good reasons to fire him?
Well, part of the controversy on this is that the three board members who were responsible voted to fire him have refused to say anything about why, other than he has lost the confidence of the board.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like he was lying to them about a number of things and ignoring their questions about serious things, and they just had too much of it. Uh, that was grounds. Altman, remember, is a businessman, great salesman, great public speaker,
Mm-hmm.
highly articulate, nice guy, looks good on TV or on the floor of the United States Senate, but he was never the heavy duty scientist in any of this.
Okay.
Uh, so that was, there is something called Q Star, which OpenAI is not talking about, uh, that apparently was a breakthrough, and apparently was the board couldn't get information about it, and that's when they got that's when they got really mad.
Hmm.
But they're back.
What is that? Do we know what that is? What are we talking about? Star.
There's several people. Uh, Jim Fan at NVIDIA had a really good write up of what it probably is, and it looks like they're putting together a few pieces that have been other people have been working on and making them work together. It is not going to be general artificial intelligence. Uh, the Is it ever going to be general artificial intelligence? Well, Noam Chomsky, the incredibly cunning MIT uh, linguistics professor,
Mm-hmm.
has just said it can't be. Never going to happen because none of the things that we're looking at work as well as or work enough like the human mind to be able to be smarter than us.
Interesting. No, 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 Chomsky, Dave. Just a quick side. I remember reading his textbooks when we were in college. He's been around a long time. That guy.
Yeah, but he's not wrong in one sense.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, People who are afraid are very conscious that it might happen or will happen. It might happen quickly. Who are top in the field will agree with him in one sense. The techniques we have now aren't going to solve it. You
Mm-hmm.
can't just take the neural networks behind ChatGPT and make them bigger and solve the problems. Up till now, making them bigger was a big advance in the last 3 years, uh, and it's going to take some new thinking and some new ideas. But think of a 2-year-old or 4-year-old. Think of the things that they can do better than any AI system now. They can respond and learn faster
Mm-hmm.
as things change around them. They don't need as much information to decide what's going on. Uh, and it's very hot near the fireplace, where they need to have many, whereas an AI system now needs to have loads of data and many
Mm-hmm.
readings. Uh, so things are happening. Hinman thinks it's going to be maybe within 5 years, and he's getting very scared. He's as good as anybody in the business, and there's several others at that level who are at least as worried.
Mm-hmm.
Even Sam Altman not long ago said it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Doesn't know when. Might be 10 years, might be 100 years. But that was about 6 months ago. And since
Mm-hmm.
then, the progress has been so extreme.
Yeah, it ain't gonna be 100. I mean, it's gonna be a lot less than that. Probably less than 10. Be my guess. From a layman's point of view, just looking at how fast everything evolves, Dave.
It's so fast, I can't keep up with it. I'm a
Yeah,
pretty good researcher.
yeah.
I did have one day I got 35 papers.
Hmm.
It was just before a big conference, and it was all
Mm-hmm.
just coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even look at the abstracts of that
Yeah,
many
yeah. We had
papers.
Moore's law with the development of chips, but we're gonna have to come up with a new algorithm to track the speed of this whole AI development.
Will we have to come up with it?
Well,
Or
it will emerge.
do a better job. And many things they are doing a better job. Another part of Google called DeepMind in London, which cracked the protein folding problem, has just done the weather around the world, taking the last 5 years of data of I don't know how many thousand locations, put it into the model, and in 3 minutes, it can come up with a more accurate forecast for the next day than the best climate model that science has until this.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
And
that's AI power.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of thing where AI is natural.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Takes a heck of a lot of data and it goes look for the patterns in them,
Mm-hmm.
patterns that a human probably never notice.
Mm-hmm.
When it put it, the zero shot stuff right now, the change since 10 years ago was that they showed that you don't have to make up all the rules. Until then, in the AI systems, you had to say, if you think this, go to this. If you think that, go to so and so and
Mm-hmm.
so and so and such and such. Then they learned that if you can take a whole lot of data, and we're talking billions and trillions of words, hand them to the computer with some guide of what means what, the computer is able to find patterns and do a better job, usually, solving them.
Mm-hmm.
That's happening in lots of things. Uh, Other news. Let's go to something more positive. The two small studies, but from different places, uh, are finding that they are doing CAR T cells, which we spoke about last week, are curing sickle cell, dangerous procedure, are shrinking glioblastomas, possibly the most fatal and most common brain tumor. So that's happening.
And
And
what kind of treatment is this, Dave? How is it a drug? Is it a gene
the gene,
therapy? What is it?
no. This is gene modifying.
Okay.
Okay. You What the CAR T stuff is that it takes the DNA of your cancer cell or any other cell, splits it at a point, sticks in something else that solves the problem.
Mm.
So on sickle cell, if I remember it right, they found a gene that produces hemoglobin in babies, but once you get a few years old, you lose that and go to another system. And what they're doing is they're taking adults and pasting in to that adult's DNA the gene for what works fine in babies, and they're getting cures. It's
Mm.
pretty serious. It's 2 months in the hospital because they have to knock out your immune system,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very dangerous. Uh, but it's doable, and another bit, Endpoints News report that the latest survey looking through what kind of enzymes can cut DNA, which you then use as the cut point is where you insert, and they found 188 new ones that they're now testing to see which really work better when. So
Wow.
the progress is coming at
Hmm.
a fabulous rate.
No,
That's one.
is AI playing a role in that? There? What's driving this innovation in the gene therapy?
Uh, on this, the main thing is actually traditional science
Hmm.
has found a way. Uh, your cells to destroy bacteria that might be infecting them,
Hmm.
and enzymes that could cut the DNA of a virus coming into you to destroy it. But they came up with this CAR-T, which is the leader in the first, uh, which is a natural thing that your body is made to defeat invaders. And about 10 years ago, 2 Nobel Prizes 3 years ago. And now they're finding that there are more and more systems like CAR-T that may be even better.
Hmm.
Uh, it's wonderful.
Yes,
Great.
that's a really good developments, positive developments in technology and applications to help save
On
and
the
extend
other,
folks' lives.
on the other hand, a few things are dying and a few things are getting surveilled. And let's go to one of the stories you wanted to get to. What's happening in Hollywood,
Yeah, well, it's
where
interesting. AI seems to have its fingers in so many things. The Hollywood strike was settled about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. But an issue that folks are talking about that is still kind of up in the air has to do with using the digital likenesses of actors and actresses. And I'm reading now from a recent story in Wired magazine where they say the provision allowing for the creation of digital replicas and synthetic performance, hadn't heard that term before, could decrease the number of jobs available to both performers and crew. So essentially, what AI is able to do is create a digital replica of an actor or an actress, and then have that digital replica actually perform in a movie or movies. It could be multiple movies. And apparently, there is a provision wherein if you're an actor, you have to give permission to the studio for them to use your likeness. But once you do, they're off to the races.
well, off to the races in terms of using it.
Yes.
Now, one of the things the actors got in the strike is that the actor will get royalties when it's used.
Hmm.
So
That's a
that's
good thing.
going.
That's a
Yeah.
good thing. But here's another nuance that that the synthetic performer might use some of the might train on the performances of a great actor, but not actually be an actual replica of that actor. The story in Wired magazine talked about a digital replica of Denzel Washington, for instance, that had his gravitas, if you will, but not his exact likeness and features. And so the question is that covered? Well, no, it's not a direct replica of Denzel, but it kind of feels like the way that he presents himself. And is that covered? And it sounds like at least this article, this writer argues that the studio would be on fairly strong legal grounds that they're free to do that. So, it's a question of where does the line between a digital replica and a derived lookalike fall? Where does that line fall? And that's up in the air. It has not been tested.
Another one where it's getting really tough to call is that we know that you can create illustrations. I'm now seeing incredibly good photorealistic illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
I have pages of 6 of them from a new outfit that uses about 10 times more computing power to get more details.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't show them to you, who is most of you who are seeing this and listening to this and not seeing it, but it has gotten incredibly good. There's no, the examples that I saw took 6 important possible issues in the Ukraine and in Gaza. Pictures of a little boy crying with the city in the background that's all been knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
6 of them that were so good, I couldn't tell whether or not they were real.
Now, these are AI generated, if you will, fake photographs.
Yes.
Using photograph within quotes.
Yeah.
Because it's not a photograph. It's a fake.
Photorealistic illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
And the story here is it's just gotten better so fast. Audiobooks are already using voices. They actually paid a number of the best voice actors
Mm-hmm.
to get the permit to record them at length, give them good samples, and took the books they already did and generate a voice.
Mm.
It's being used routinely. We don't know who all those voices are, although the people in the industry are making guesses, because everybody in the industry is going to hate whoever they are when the name comes out.
Why do you say that? Why is that, Jay? What?
Because they're going to put everybody else out of work.
Oh,
Everybody
just
else.
the precedent that they're going to set. Okay, I got you.
Now, there's one place where maybe you want to use automation to put people out of work, and that's doing something like building the Paris subway.
Mm-hmm.
Paris has a huge 150 miles of subways being built, $40 billion worth.
This is new subways, or they're rebuilding
New
their
subways.
existing?
New subways.
Okay.
They're running them all around Paris and in all the suburbs. So the center of Paris has fabulous subways.
Yeah, I've been on
They may
some
be
years
ugly.
ago, but it was very, very nice and clean, fast.
Well, not always, but they work. They work very well.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're trying to expand Paris so that there are more places for people to live, because Paris made the decision not to go up into skyscrapers, with only a handful of exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
There's
So
like
they're spreading out.
So what they're doing is they're taking the suburbs around Paris
Mm-hmm.
and putting in really good transportation, which
Mm-hmm.
hopefully will replace
Okay.
cars.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what kind of car are we looking to have? The electrics are coming on really fast in China. China now makes more electric cars than the entire rest of the world put together.
Mm-hmm.
And they're several years ahead in the technology compared to well, on batteries at least. So that was why Ford is buying the technology from a Chinese company, CATL, because the Chinese are ahead of us there. So, what's the most popular electric car now?
Isn't it the Tesla? Or is it an Asian import?
Toyota, which had the Prius, has new models.
Okay, that's right. The Prius has
Price
been around
about
for a while. It's a
$10,000
hybrid. It's not all electric, but it's a hybrid.
Right. It's a hybrid, but the gas mileage and the pollution is.
Oh, it's stunning, and they've improved it. I just sideline. My sister has had a Prius for 10 years, and I've had the privilege of driving it for a number of those years, and the mileage is stunning. It has all kinds of gauges, Dave, where you can see your real-time use of gas, which most cars wouldn't dare show you, but it shows you the real-time consumption of gas, 40 to 50 miles per gallon consistently, even 10 years into the lifetime of her particular car. Incredible. And I understand the new models are even better.
I don't know, because the data comes from the companies or for
Mm-hmm.
people who have really strong opinions, probably supported by the companies. But the calculations they have is that over the life of a car, Electric cars are now cheaper. Remember, Tesla dropped its prices $5,000 or $10,000
Yeah.
because Toyota and BYD, huge Chinese outfit, was outselling them.
Mm-hmm.
Tesla had to do that. They were getting clobbered.
Mm.
The other cars were $10,000 and $15,000 cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
It's still hard because when you say savings over 10 years, you still have to put more money up front.
Yeah.
So that's struggling, but it's coming. There's loads and loads of progress being made in energy. One of the things that's now come back, geothermal energy. I
Mm-hmm.
remember 20 or 30 years ago, they were building this in Hawaii, where they had a superb physical setup to do it. And now Google is financing a geothermal plant in, I think, Arizona or New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
near one of their data centers.
Now, geothermal, Dave, that uses the heat inside the earth to power it. Is that correct?
You go down in the earth and it gets hotter and hotter.
Mm-hmm.
I've never gone down deep enough to see the effect, but miners certainly know it very well. So it's really hot if you dig down 2,000, 3,000 feet. The problem is that's very expensive. So you throw some cold water down there, and with now the way they do it is the same techniques they use with fracking. You throw the water down there, it comes back up, breaking through the rocks, and you recover that and a lot of heat with no need to put energy into the system.
It comes back as heat?
Comes back as steam.
As steam, okay.
Steam can run a generator.
Mm-hmm.
So you pop cold water down. The latest advance on this Google one is that the fracking people have developed techniques. We think of wells going down, and that's the way it used to be. And then they were able to start doing it at angles. They now can go down 2,000 feet and go horizontally 2,000 feet to get to exactly where there's the right oil, if you're fracking, and heat conditions and return conditions if you're just sending water down and doing steam. That's going.
Wow.
I saw a really dramatic set of numbers or chart with numbers behind it. And at this point, in most of the world, solar energy is cheaper than gas or coal.
Wow. Okay.
And the result is it's coming on faster than any of the projections.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say that's going to solve the climate problem, but that's a big improvement.
Yeah, that's big. That's big.
Okay, how much time do we have?
Okay, we're at the halfway point, Dave. We got to take a break. This Community and Technology, Dave Burstein and Stu Reid. We're going to take a brief musical break and be right back. Stay tuned. This is WHCR 90.3 FM, Community and Technology. Stay tuned.
In this
We
segment,
got some breakthroughs in medicine. What's going on?
well, we've talked before in this show how about in trials and experimentation, they are curing sickle cell with genetic engineering. What's just happened is that it's going to go beyond experiments. The British authorities have authorized going ahead with CRISPR editing for sickle cell and beta thalassemia in production. That is a point that's historically important and wonderful. Let me first give the detail on the story that was usually buried. Mm-hmm. Yes, they are curing sickle cell.
Yeah, now we talked about this a few weeks back, Dave, where there was a trial going on. Well, this is different from the trial, is it not?
This is official authority coming out of the British government. Mm-hmm. And presumably the Americans are going to follow soon because the trials proved you can do it.
Okay.
But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be safe. And it's going to be very expensive.
Mm.
In order to make the CRISPR editing work, you have to knock out the person's immune system. Just like you do when you're doing the
bone marrow transplant.
Bone marrow transplants.
Mm-hmm.
One story I said you have to spend a month in the hospital before it's done. Probably a month afterwards to keep yourself safe because you don't have an immune system.
Wow.
Brutally expensive. There's every reason to think that the companies that are doing it, and more power to them, are going to charge an enormous amount. They're talking $500,000 to $2 million.
Well, for what? To treat a person?
Or creating the CRISPR, for creating Casgevy.
Okay, so that's not a per treatment. That's to create the overall treatment. That's not like a dose.
That's per patient.
That's per patient?
Yep.
Whoa, my God.
That's the way the American system works. They've got a patent. They can charge whatever. And there's already a big debate on some of this stuff, whether Medicaid or other government programs should pay for it, even though you know it's life-saving.
Right.
Okay. So, and because you're knocking out the immune system, and because this is a new procedure that is worthwhile making available, but certainly doesn't have the experience you'd want, say, for a heart transplant.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when they did the first heart transplant and all the patients?
South Africa, right? I do remember.
Yeah, and then they
decades
had some
ago.
So on, and it was incredible. They really did keep people alive at the beginning, I think for hundreds of days, very early on. But everybody died.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure in any medical procedure, this intense, people will die. But the news is there is a cure for sickle cell. With a little bit of luck, they will make it practical and available and safe. And that is now authorized by the British government for doctors.
Oh, that's good news, Dave.
Yeah. Now, going from the good news, going from one of the most frightening pieces of bad news I can remember ever reporting. The life expectancy for men in the United States the last few years has gone down, despite all the advances.
Supposed to be going up, Dave, not down. What's going on? What do they attribute that to? Is it something?
Some of it, and this is from, I don't know who picked it up, but the original study was in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Solid is that some of it was just the effect of COVID.
Okay,
it killed 1 million people in the United States.
So it could be a statistical anomaly as a result of the pandemic to some degree.
That was all it was. The number of drug overdoses has gone up so much. And the number of people committing suicide and being shot has gone up so much.
Wow.
Even if there weren't COVID, life expectancy in the United States has gone down the last few years. If I remember right, it was even happening before COVID. There is only one time outside of war I know of this happening in the last 50 years. It was Russia after they got rid of the communists and put in a nominally democratic government. The economy totally fell apart, proving that when you make that kind of change in an economy, from socialism to something like capitalism, which became quickly a kleptocracy, is it creates enormous chaos. And it was so extreme that the life expectancy in Russia went down after the communists were defeated.
Let me ask you this, Deb. Do you have any relative statistics for the rest of the world? Where are we on the scale globally with that 74, 75-year life expectancy? Is that near the top?
That's terrible.
Really?
Oh, that's terrible. The Japanese are over 80. And most of Europe is going. The current numbers, or the numbers for 2021, is women have a life expectancy of 79 years and men 73.
That's U.S.
That's the U.S. Gap, I remember, used to be 3 years. It was mostly explained by more men smoking, that men being more liable to heart attacks for whatever reason. It's now up to 6 years.
The spread.
The spread. And I don't have details beyond that. Most of Europe, women have life expectancy of over 80 years, then much more than the American 73.5 years. The United States spends 2 or 3 times as much on healthcare as anyone else, and I've been benefiting from it. I've had major surgery and a lot of other problems have been dealt with, and I'm getting around just fine now.
Yeah, well, God bless.
Did 10 years ago, partly because I got superb care at St. Luke's in Mount Sinai.
My guess would be, Dave, that diet and exercise probably have a huge impact negatively on U.S. life expectancy.
Absolutely. And certainly the fast food, resulting in the cholesterol, and the sugar and carbohydrates that are so strong have something to do with it. In the absence, the data has been overwhelming for 2 decades that a healthy diet with a lot of fruits and vegetables prolongs your life, and that exercise makes a difference. I've got the example in my life of how much difference exercise makes. 5 years ago, I could walk a mile, but I was straining by the end of it. I spent 6 weeks in rehab because I was having a problem falling, and they had me in lots of physical therapy. And I've followed that up with nearly an hour of exercise almost every day. I am including balance and weightlifting and so on. Yesterday, I walked 3 miles.
Wow, go ahead, Dave.
Around New York to a dentist. There was a problem with the subways that I needed and so on. And I wound up saying, what the hell, it's a nice day, I'll walk. And I walked 3 miles yesterday. I could not have done that 10 years ago. And that is because of all the exercise, physical health.
And the good health care that you've been getting.
And the good health care has kept me alive. And good health care, which sent me to rehab, physical therapy, made a huge difference. And I'm very lucky. A year ago, I thought I was headed straight downhill. And as I say, yesterday I was able to go out, saw my dentist, and went out with Jenny to see the movie Napoleon.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm not suggesting you go see Napoleon. It's got the greatest battle scenes ever filmed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a great movie. Okay, that's what's happening. Those are two healthcare issues. And one thing that I want to put in here is the best of luck to Steve Wozniak, Woz, who built the first Apple
Yeah.
and is a favorite of many of us in technology because he's a great guy. Uh, for years, he had a terrible internet connection because he made enough money in Apple to buy a house up on top of a hill in California and enough land that he wasn't even close to the cable lines.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted $20,000 to run cable up to him, and he decided not to do it initially. Uh, and he thought he could get DSL, and that's why I know this story because I was the DSL expert.
Mm-hmm.
And that got solved eventually. But Woz had a heart attack. He's back home. No, excuse me, a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
He is back home and apparently doing well.
What is he in his early mid-70s, Dave? Do you know how old he is?
I think mid 70s.
Mid-70s, okay.
And he was doing fine,
Mm-hmm.
but now had a small stroke,
Mm-hmm.
which is why we say get good doctors, eat
Mm-hmm.
well,
Right.
and exercise. Yeah. Now, another story out there is that I want to put in there is that Iran, apparently, according to the news stories, I haven't verified them, but they seem quite likely, has been giving money to Hamas that has been financing school lunch meals and breakfast for the poor children in Gaza
Mm.
and the hospitals and presumably the weapons. So how do you get $2 billion from Tehran to Hamas in Syria or Gaza or the West Bank? The story in the paper, which seems very reasonable, is they used crypto.
Mm-hmm.
You can send Bitcoin invisibly. That was one of the key advantages of Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
that nobody could trace it. That's why everybody is using it to avoid taxes everywhere
Mm-hmm.
and to move money illegally. And I could see this inspiring the people who want to get rid of crypto. I am sure there are people in the Pentagon right now who looked at this and said, Bitcoin allowed them to get their money to fund Hamas, kill Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they're going to do it. In fact, I don't think they will do it, but it's certainly possible.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly the value could go to nothing in hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know whether Bitcoin can go up or down,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a good investment or a bad investment for people who could afford to lose
Mm-hmm.
everything. But
No,
anybody,
Dave, wasn't there just a story about another cryptocurrency? I think it was one coin that where
I
the
can't even keep up with all this.
where the CEO I think was just indicted in a Ponzi scheme of some sort,
At
where they were
355, yeah.
artificially boosting the price of the cryptocurrency by selling it and then using the proceeds from the sales to enrich themselves and to boost up their coin, the share price, if you will.
Again and again, there's dirty stories in crypto.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard anything like that in Bitcoin, although I believe that the market has been manipulated by a few people who own a lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
but I have no proof of that. Uh, Crypto is dangerous as heck. There's a lot of people. I wound up at dinner a year and a half ago with somebody who was telling everybody, put all your money in Bitcoin. People were making so much.
Mm.
And I knew already then that crypto is a very risky investment. Again, let me be clear. I am not telling you that the value of Bitcoin is not going to go up. It may well. I said the same thing when Bitcoin was at 29,000. It's now at 38,000.
Mm-hmm.
but I've also seen it fall in half in 2 weeks. Uh, that's up to you, but you should walk in with your eyes wide open. And if you can afford to lose all the money you're investing, if you're an Elon Musk, go right ahead. You can afford to do it. Next story. Nuclear power. Times had an article basically writing that, well, quoting a number of people in the nuclear power industry, that it is absolutely necessary to avoid climate disaster to go to more nuclear power. This is humbug, but they are saying that nuclear is now proving itself on paper to be far safer, more reliable, and ultimately less expensive. And there's the nuclear people are saying, and I've heard this from good scientists at MIT and places like that, that it's the right time to bring back nuclear. In particular, they have a lot of new designs for nuclear power plants that are smaller, cheaper, and on paper, much safer. They haven't built any of them.
Yeah, on paper is the key word there, Dave.
Yeah.
And with nuclear, all you need is one oops. Just one oops.
Well, we've had 2, 3.
Yeah.
Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island,
Fukushima.
and Fukushima.
Yeah.
So I don't believe it's safe. Well, with the evidence they have there. Brilliant scientists have done it.
Yeah.
Incidentally, Sam Altman, one of the guys betraying OpenAI, who wound up getting fired from OpenAI and might come back, who knows, might be back by the time this goes on air, has invested heavily in nuclear fusion that he thinks is going to be available in a few years. I don't know, but I can tell you, one, I'm not convinced that it's necessary. And there's lots of things that have been written showing how, with hydropower, solar power, wind power, and conservation, we can do everything we need without going to nuclear.
Yeah.
And whether it's the other problem with nuclear is how expensive it is. That's actually what killed nuclear reactors in the United States years ago. It wasn't the explosion at 3 Mile Island. It was that they require such expensive safety measures, the containment cells, that the prices doubled and tripled to build them, and the economics didn't add up.
Okay.
The Times story, after being enthusiastic from all the people at the end, pointed out that one of the key companies has just given up because their proposed model was going to be too expensive for anybody to buy it. And that's there. How much time do we have? Oh, let me tell you one related story before we go on. Now, the Times pointed out that had nuclear experts pointing out that you must have nuclear because what happens when there's a drought or the sun goes down? Or
batteries,
the wind
batteries.
Batteries are doable, and pump storage is doable, and we're going to have a lot of batteries. Every electric car and bus. So you can plug them in at night when you're charging them, get them up to a full charge. On the weekends, there's no problem with discharging them because you need that when we're talking about school buses. And that's an enormous capacity of batteries going to be in American homes. How much time do we have?
We just got about a minute left, Dave.
Okay, minute left. Another story from China that an expert is saying that the Chinese chip firms, of which there are now hundreds designing chips in China, should be very careful because many of them are likely to go bust. Why? Because there are hundreds of them in China, And there's not that big a market for chip design. Perfectly sensible
Uh-huh.
and true in anything that no matter how good it is, and we're talking about AI and
Mm.
large language models, if you have too much availability, companies, many
Yeah.
of them are going to go bust, and others will have a heck of a time making money. I now know where there's more than 20 huge large language models built, most of which are in production. And OpenAI itself recently cut its prices in half
Mm.
because editors are already there much
Mm-hmm.
cheaper than they are.
Mm-hmm.
So watch very closely. I saw it years ago when I was the DSL expert. There
Mm-hmm.
were 11 companies. No, well, there were 7 companies making chips for DSL.
Mm-hmm.
And it was obvious pretty quickly that there wasn't enough of a market for more than 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, that's what
Yeah.
happened. And many of those companies went
Mm-hmm.
bust.
Yeah.
It's one to watch for. I've said my piece for this episode.
Okay. Well, thank you. This has been Community Technology with Dave Burstein and Stu Reid. See us every Wednesday, 5 p.m. for the latest news that can affect you and your community. Community Technology on WHCR 90.3 FM. Thanks. Good night.